Author Chris Kiefer is a community activist and medical anthropologist whose studies have led him to Honduras, Nicaragua, the Philippines, South Africa, Thailand, and Ecuador. Ecuador is the setting for Chris's latest novel, Deep Code, which explores time travel. Chris, welcome, and in the interest of full disclosure, I should mention that Chris and I have worked together in other capacities as well. So, time travel is fascinating. Time you say it, people are interested in that. And the main character is Maurice Brulé. So tell us a little bit about Deep Code.
Okay. Maurice Brulé, Professor Maurice Brulé is a psychologist. He's kind of an adventurer, a kind of a thrill seeker, but he's also very interested in the human connection with the mysterious, the hidden, and the divine. So when he hears that there's a druid in Ireland who knows about time travel, has the secret of time travel, he can't resist going to Ireland to look this person up. Well, in the process of trying to find the secret, he runs afoul of the fearsome spirits of Irish folklore, the Fomors. And they curse him with a series of terrifying flashbacks to his own prehistoric past. And this throws him off completely.
So he's lived other lives, is what you're saying?
That's right. Okay. He has lived, apparently, he's lived other lives. And the Fomors put this terrible fear into him that this is going to go on, these flashbacks are going to go on. So it changes his life. He becomes disillusioned with his work and his life and goes to seek a new way of knowing, a new spiritual reality. And in the process, he becomes a passionate advocate for the ancient knowledge systems of the world. This, of course, gets him in more trouble because the powers that be in our modern world do not want this ancient knowledge to be revived, to be reborn.
Now that's an interesting and that's a dramatic cliffhanger, so we'll say you have to read the book, right, to learn more about that.
Exactly.
But this whole issue of ancient understanding of knowledge and modern powers that be really speaks to a larger concern that you have about technology yes. and people getting away from what they know to be true. So explain what you mean about the ancient wisdom.
Yes, exactly. We live in a time when our technology has given us the ability, as we all know, to seriously damage our environment, and it's also damaging human society by creating a kind of short-term desire for things that are fun and interesting. It's human nature to want those
More
things.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. So we now live in a world, it's like a giant mall where everywhere you turn, you see the same very lovely, very interesting things to tempt you away from the bigger issues of life and of man's place in the universe.
So you're saying, for example, if you leave the Bay Area and you drive to Southern California, you can find a mall where you'll see the same stores. You get this, and you get this sense of familiarity.
Yes, if you go to Manila or Bangladesh or Durban, South Africa, or Beijing, you find the same things. You'll find the kids want the cell phones and the whole thing. So it's a universe, I call it the global monoculture. And it's eroding our natural human connection with each other, with the universe, and with ourselves. Now, where does ancient knowledge come in? Well, by ancient knowledge, I mean the knowledge that our ancestors had, the way they thought about time and the universe and man's place in the universe was complex, beautiful, and encouraged people to think in terms of the long view and deep issues.
So satisfaction as opposed to instant gratification. Give me an example of what you mean.
Here's an example. Supposing you believed that every child that was born was a reincarnation of an ancestor, that it was a grandparent or a great-grandparent being reborn, that you yourself were a reincarnation of an ancestor. This connects you with an ancient, long, glorious tradition, and with the people around you in a way that our modern world has lost. You now see yourself not as an ego, a person who needs this and needs that, but more as a humble child of history and a child of the universe. And your culture gives you tools, ways of thinking about that, that make you feel that you're an actual participant in creation and in the preservation of the world. Primitive people still have that.
So that's one of the concerns. Obviously, people say, well, you can't get away from technology, and technology has connected us. You can get on the internet, you can Skype and be in touch with people all over the world. But what you're saying is that we as individuals are cut off from a sense of connection to something greater that leads
right.
us to act in a way that when we see another person, we think about them differently.
That's right.
We think
We're
about them as
distracted.
connected to us, as opposed to someone who's there to satisfy or gratify whatever we need in the moment.
We're distracted from our natural tendency to seek the answers to deep spiritual questions. And this knowledge, that what I call traditional or ancient knowledge, is in danger of disappearing because the global monoculture is taking over, and kids in the jungles of Peru or in the villages of Thailand, they want to be part of the global monoculture. They're not so interested in what grandmother and grandfather said anymore. So it's a serious problem, I believe.
I should back up because I mentioned you're a medical anthropologist, and obviously this is how you study this, but explain exactly what that means and how that relates to the vision that you have regarding the world.
Medical anthropology. Well, as a medical anthropologist, we think carefully about the knowledge systems that other people, especially non-urban, non-literate people, have about preserving and protecting health, not of just the person, but of the community. And it gives us a sense of reverence for what people with the non-scientific world, you might say, knows and what they believe.
So that's the reason that you wanted to place your character Morse Brulé in Ecuador. You've traveled to Ecuador, as I mentioned. What about the culture there did you incorporate in the book, and how is it different from what you experience here?
Well, first let me say that the main purpose of the book is to entertain. I think all books should be fun, and this book is not it's not an essay on the subject that we're talking about.
No, it's an adventure. It's
a
quite an
romping adventure, which just happens to have this as one of its themes. I'm serious about the theme, but it's the main thing is people should enjoy the story. In Peru, I spent a little time in the Amazonian jungle, where I had already studied and read about the beliefs of the indigenous people, and the book has pretty accurate descriptions of their relationship with the forest and their relationship with each other. And believe me, it's beautiful. I can't explain it right now, but it's
I know, it's something that people will have to enjoy. There's also a very erotic nature in the book, and you have some thoughts about the importance of that as a force of erotic love, as a force of nature.
Yes, yes, that's a great question. Human beings, because of our biology, because of the fact that we have these little babies that have to be cared for 15 years or so before they can be on their own, humans cannot survive without strong social bonds. Kids need parents, or at least they need a family to take care of them. So we're drawn to make these powerful, intimate, emotional connections with each other. Why? How does that happen? Well, it's the way our nervous systems are wired. We're wired to fall in love. It's part of our biology. And we're wired to enjoy the heck out of it once we find somebody that we can love. So the book touches on that too. That this is a deep part of our relationship to the world, and to ignore it or downplay it is a mistake.
And as you talk about passion, I think about the fact you started writing 4 years ago. You mentioned in your bio that you bike, you surf, you enjoy Cuban cigars and rum as well. So you have a passion for life, and I wonder, what advice would you give other people who might be looking at things and think at 74 they're not sure what they would want to do?
Oh yes. Well, follow your bliss. As a teacher, my students would often come to me and say, "Well, I'm worried this is what I really want to do, but I'm worried that I might not get a job if I do that," and so on. And I would always say, do what you really want to do. Follow your passion, because if you're doing what you love, you are going to be so good at it that that eventually you're going to get recognition. Yeah, so you have to suffer a little bit. That's good for you too.
It builds character in that way.
Yeah,
and you're a
yes.
retired professor, we should say, from UCSF. And you also are passionate about health and healthy communities. You had students who went out to communities to understand more about the importance of equitable health care, especially among those who are underserved.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I enjoy doing volunteer work in underserved communities and understanding what it takes to connect people with better health care. That's part of my life, part of my work.
Yes, and it's something that informs all that you do. You live in Berkeley, and you mentioned that the Philippines and South Berkeley are similar in certain ways. In what ways, in terms of culture, do you find that they are?
Where I worked in the Philippines was among people in remote villages that were economically stressed. They had very little, life was hard. And so they had adapted to this situation in interesting ways. They understood their place in society, and they knew what they needed. But they also had a way of sharing and a way of enjoying life that I found very moving and very instructive. They're generous to a fault. They had a great sense of humor.
Very much like people in the Bay Area.
Just like the economically stressed communities that I work in South Berkeley. Same kind of people. Generous, loving, fun-loving, and in a way, wise.
And on that note, Chris, I want to thank you so much. We're out of time, but it's fascinating to talk with you. Again, the book is Deep Code, and it's available, and the website information is there as well. And that's our show. I'm Janice Edwards. Thanks for all that you do to make our Bay Area the great place that it is. Please join us here on Bay Area Vista next time. We look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you so much.
Conklin Brothers of San Mateo has provided in-studio flooring for Bay Area Vista. Conklin Brothers' motto is, "You can count on us."